When Mesa sent me their brand new acoustic DI to review, I have to admit I was very skeptical. I mean, Mesa Boogie is known as an electric guitar amplifier company. I'm talking high gain, shredders, the whole deal. They've done some bass stuff as well, but it's all been on the electric end of the spectrum. And along comes an acoustic guitar DI. So in this review, I'm going to share with you the story behind it and how it even came to existence, and I'm going to answer the question, would I make this a permanent fixture in my live gig rig? All that and more right after this. On this show, you'll see guitars from all major manufacturers and small bench luthiers. I've had the pleasure of reviewing over 500 acoustic guitars, and in each review, I play the same songs recorded the same way so you can compare the sound of any guitar I've ever reviewed. I'm Tony Polecastro. Welcome to Acoustic Guitar Heaven. This is the Rosette by Mesa Boogie. It's an acoustic instrument DI that has a little bit of a story behind it. About 2 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Andy Field came on to Mesa Boogie's team. And he was a huge asset because he had tons of ideas in the acoustic instrument department, namely the amplification department because, well, Mesa Boogie's an amplifier company. Now, one thing to know about Andy is a brilliant engineer, but he's also a front-of-house sound engineer. So the fact that he made an acoustic instrument DI with a front-of-house engineer's brain is pretty remarkable. And that's actually exactly what I like about the Rosette DI. At first, I have to be honest, I was a little bit intimidated. There's a lot of knobs on this thing. But what I came to find out was that these knobs are like, well, it's like secret powers. Each one of them holds a secret power. Now, just quick disclaimer, it's gonna take some time to dial in your tone with this particular DI. Is that a bad thing? No. I just want you to know that it's not plug and play. But the tone shaping capabilities of this little box here are truly remarkable. You can set your input gain, you can also set your boost gain, which is really fantastic if you are finger picking, or if, say, you're plugging in at a bluegrass situation or something you're gonna take a lead on. All you have to do is click the boost button with your foot and it'll up your signal so you can cut above the rest of the noise, if you will. Supportive rhythmic instruments. Going down the line, there's a lot of options. There's a notch filter, which is really, really helpful to prevent feedback. There's also a high pass filter, which of course just kind of takes out that low end rumble from your guitar. Which brings me to kind of the prized section of this particular DI. It's EQ section. You have a low EQ, you have a low mid, you have a high mid, and you have treble. Both the middle, the low mid and the high mid are sweepable, meaning you can select the frequency and you can select whether it's boosted or cut. This is where the tone shaping truly is remarkable. And I say this because there's a lot of DIs that I've tried that just give you a basic 3-band EQ and you're kind of stuck with set points. You can either boost it or cut it, and that's pretty much it. Here you can pick the frequency, boost or cut it. Now, one thing to know is Mesa says that if everything's at 12 o'clock, meaning all the knobs are at 12 o'clock in the EQ realm, that's flat. I didn't find that particular setting very desirable, but it was a great starting point, and I'd like you to keep that in mind if you get your hands on one of these. What I would recommend in terms of a starting point is taking the low mid and the high mid and kind of splaying them apart, putting the low mid at, say, 10 o'clock and the high mid at, say, 2 or 3 o'clock. And then I would actually decrease both of those frequencies. Again, this is a starting point. It's what I found to be at least a good in the ballpark kind of a starting point. It took me some time, maybe 10, 15 minutes to kind of twiddle with the knobs and figure out what I really liked. Another thing that I want to point out is that with this particular DI, it has a tendency to be very, very clear, very, very articulate. So if you're not used to hearing that pick noise or that string noise, be very cautious with the treble end of the EQ. I've chosen to actually take a lot of that out because I was doing some flat picking and I just didn't like the pick coming across. It felt very stringy. But again, with this particular EQ section, you can dial that out. Another thing that I want to mention about this particular pedal is that, I call it a pedal because it's got buttons, but you get the idea, is that it's built like a tank. This is something that you could throw on the floor of any old bar, any old gig. Feel free to step on it. Feel free to, I wouldn't spill a drink on it, but you could knock it around and it will stand up to the test. It's a pretty weighty little piece, but again, its capabilities are incredible. And last but certainly not least, I want to actually single out the boost feature. The boost feature is something that is truly a lifesaver. If you're kind of going into a lead, even if it's an acoustic guitar duo and you feel like you're just not cutting through, one simple step on the boost will bring your level up so that it can be heard. And it's not this abrupt, all of a sudden you're quiet and you're super loud. It's a very gradual boost which sounds natural, and that's why I like it so much. One more thing, a bonus thing. The output section of this particular DI is truly remarkable. It's very versatile. You have an effects send, an effects return, which is great. You have a preamp out if you want to go right into a powered monitor, and of course your direct out. And given the EQ, given the boost, you really have a lot of tools at your disposal so that you can sound good. Now again, keep in mind it's going to take a while to shape your tone, but this has the capabilities to do it. So you're probably wondering, Tony, would you take this on one of your gigs? Tony, let me one-up you. Would you make this a permanent part of your pedal board on a live gig? And the answer is yes, I absolutely would. In fact, last week I took it out and gave it a test run at a live gig, and I absolutely loved it. I had to mess with the EQ a little bit because every room's a little different. And what I love about this particular DI is that you can mess with the EQ. You're not stuck in 3 settings and just kind of at the mercy of your DI. You have a ton of power. This is a Swiss Army knife. Can you dial in a bad tone? Yeah, you certainly can. But you can dial in a very good tone as well. It's definitely worth the time invested in shaping your tone, and it's definitely worth the price point that it is at. So I give the acoustic Rosette 2 thumbs up. I would say definitely try it out. Bring your guitar, set aside a good 20-30 minutes, twiddle the knobs, and see if it comes up with a tone that you enjoy. I really hope you dug this review. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get a whole lot more of this, other reviews, and of course, awesome lessons as well.